Right, and we're live with Jeff, the SP Spaz Miller. And folks, I highly recommend you go to his channel. You look at his videos, look in that videos tab, go right down to the beginning. He's got a fantastic video on the IE debate, where he gives a brilliant discussion on sort of like two definitions of introversion, extroversion. And Jeff knows his Jungian stuff. He gave a really good Jungian explanation of extroversion, introversion. So yeah, that is the SP Spouse. A great channel that will be coming back soon. Once Jeff can negotiate with his son to say, hey, I'll let you use my computer. Let me use your laptop. Right. But enough of this behind the scenes stuff.
Neither one of us currently have a laptop, and still exists. It doesn't have to come back. It's still there. I just haven't uploaded anything new in a while, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Here we are in traffic safety chat.
Yes.
I mean, homicide reviews. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Today we're trying again to review Season 5, Episode 5, Emmy, myself, and I, because now Ben has watched the right episode.
Yes.
So, this episode originally aired November 1st, 1996. Teleplay is by Lyle Weldon and Emily Whitesell, and story by Tom Fontana, and it was directed by Michael Fields. And the quick recap: Dr. Juliana Cox arrives in Baltimore to begin work as chief medical examiner.
Sorry for interrupting. I was just wondering, is Michael Fields related to Michelle Fields? No, sorry, I got mixed up with Michelle Fields and Michelle Forbes. Michelle Fields is a hot reporter for Reason magazine. Sorry, I got mixed up between Michelle Forbes and Michelle Fields.
There's a lot of Fields, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're not related.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say that I won't be able to go as quickly through these images, so I'll just stay on that one of the hot chick. Cut the sound out. So, right, go on, Jeff.
Okay. Of course, I can't see what you're showing when I'm reading this. So anyway,
yeah.
The FBI begins to question detectives as part of the corruption investigation, setting Kellerman's nerves on edge. As Bayless and Lewis probe the death of a prostitute, a homeless man quickly confesses to both her murder and that of a second woman whose name never appeared on the board. With help from the detectives, Cox learns that one of her staff members deliberately misclassified the earlier death as an overdose and fires him. Bayless throws Brody out, whereupon he moves in with Lewis and inadvertently touches off an argument that may end his marriage. Edward Herman as FBI agent Thomas Pandolfini, who I thought was pretty good.
Oh yeah, very good.
Let me
use this casting director in Star Wars because I like the new Star Wars film, but the acting's not great, and I almost suspect that Americans are not so great at telling who can act, which British actors and actresses can act that well.
Yeah, let's just make a blanket statement about all Americans. But anyway.
But I'm just saying, American directors, I want better acting. That's all I'm saying. There's good acting in Homicide.
So David B226 Morris says, despite the tremendous strength of Melissa Leo and the countless number of excellent performances by female guest stars, Homicide was not a show that was known for having a strong female presence. It is possible that this may have been one of the reasons for its low ratings. Furthermore, the show had lost a lot of its feminine influence when Megan Russert ran off to Paris. In an effort to try and compensate for this, the writers tried to introduce another robust female personality. We meet Dr. Juliana Cox driving full speed to her job in Baltimore. One can't help but think that several viewers considered Cox a ratings-boosting bimbo. However, this is tremendously unfair, not only to actress Michelle Forbes, but to the writers of the show. Like all of the characters on Homicide, Cox had a lot more layers than it seemed at first glance. The big problem with Cox, however, was the same problem as J.H. Brody. She might be the chief medical examiner for the city of Baltimore, but Emmys have no bigger role on the show than does a videographer. The writers would try to compensate for this by putting Cox in places where the medical examiner wouldn't usually be, the squad room for one, and doing things that no Emmy would do, talking to suspects, being on the street with every murder, and so forth. It was a noble effort to keep her on the show, but in the end, there are so many places you can put the coroner on a show about police. Despite all that, the writers managed to do a much better job of fitting Cox in Homicide than they would several other characters and something. Spoiler stuff. This has a lot to do with Forbes' strength as an actress. She is amusing, energetic, and almost brash in her behavior, and when she appeared on the show, interesting things could happen, starting with this episode. Through Cox, we would see the workings of a big city police department and how some crimes slip through the cracks. While investigating the strangulation of a prostitute by a homeless man, Bayless learns that he killed another working girl 2 months earlier. When Cox investigates, she finds out that one of her staff members ruled the crime an overdose as a favor to one of the lazier detectives on the second shift. That would be Higby, who we've seen before on a few occasions.
Yep.
Her reaction is swift and sure. She fires the examiner. In her own way, Cox has the same attitude towards death that the other detectives have, and in many cases she is as righteous in them. However, Cox is not a prude. As she tells Bayless at the episode's end, she drinks too much and has had affairs with the wrong kind of people. She's going to do a bit of both here. But even if you don't like Cox, there's a lot of other stuff going on in this episode that crackles. For example, the FBI has begun their investigation into the bribery allegation against Kellerman, and the lead investigator seems hell-bent on uncovering all his vices. Edward Herman, known for playing patrician fatherly roles, takes on the role of Grand Inquisitor with extreme viciousness. His scenes with Meldrick Lewis and Lieutenant Giardello are very well written, and he's good enough to actually take the wind out of G's sails. How's my sound going, Ben?
It's okay. I'm going to have to admit that what is going through my mind at the moment is remember to ask Jeff what type he thinks Cox is.
Okay, you can write that down.
Yes.
Kellerman is already beginning to tense up about this investigation. He begins to become snarky with Lewis, gets drunk later that night, and gets in a bar fight with one of the other arson detectives. At the same time, he is keeping a lot in. We learn that he hasn't yet told his parents about the pending indictments. He seems justifiably upset about what's going on, but it's not until the next episode that we learn why he's so concerned. Meanwhile, Frank is making... See, that would ordinarily have been a spoiler, but since you saw the next episode anyway, now it's actually not. Meanwhile, Frank is making slow progress in recovering from his stroke. For the first time since he rejoined the unit, he is able to give pertinent advice on an investigation. But he's also going through something a lot more painful. He and his wife are celebrating their 10th anniversary, and he wants to celebrate by making love to her, which is difficult because his blood pressure medication is leaving him impotent. We see the depth of Frank's love of his wife when he goes to the doctor and all but pleads with her to let him do this. The sight of Frank this upset is a noteworthy event, and it gives Brower another angle to play off. He is able to go forward this time, but there are further marital obstacles ahead. Frank's marriage isn't the only...
Just one into it. Sorry, Jeff. One into it. Just for historical context, here, folks. 1996. I think this is 2 years before Viagra was released.
Okay, you know more about that than I do. But anyway.
Hey, what are you saying there, Jeff?
Just facts. Just stating facts, because I didn't know that. Frank's marriage isn't the only one having difficulties. Meldrick and Barbara have been having problems almost since the honeymoon began 6 months ago.
Is this the first time? Sorry, is this the first time we saw her?
I think so. Yeah, I don't remember.
Did we see her at the wedding?
Remember,
yes.
He introduced her to everybody at the wedding.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Reception.
Interruption.
Yeah, reception. I guess it was.
Right.
When Meldrick invites Brody to stay at his place, his walking papers at the episode start, things get notably worse when he simply makes a comment about a painting of Meldrick's. In fairness to Brody, this marriage is not standing a very strong foundation, and this fight was probably going to happen anyway. No, that Brody isn't going to be here long either. However, the last scene of the episode has the emotional pow that you get with Homicide. Cox tells Bayless that her way. Tell him that. She told the guy who came to pick up the body. But anyway, however, her sorrow unfolds as the scene progresses until we, like Bayless, realize whose body she's standing over. It is a shocking moment because earlier in the show we see that her father is still alive and looking decent. However, we won't realize the full significance of this until a later episode. I won't say which one. The scene represents some of the best work that Forbes will do. Side. There's an awful lot going on and not much time to tell all of it. Still things well. It introduced effectively, it sets the stage for stories that are slowly unfolding, and it highlights several of the show's stars in unlikely places for a dramatic punch. It's not perfect, but it's very, very serviceable. My score, 8.4. So that's what Mr. Morris says. Okay.
Oh, dearie me. Well, I know why they did the first scene with the speeder, and that was because they could have that dialogue between her and the cop where she says who she is, but then we sort of get that information anyway. But I don't like the speeder aspect, especially like as a medical examiner. How many people would she have seen who have been like involved in like car accidents?
But you see, Ben, that she's confident that she will not cause an accident. It's a compartmentalizing of things. It's a different.
Yes, but you see, that's why most car accidents survive. Is people think that they're under control. I mean, I would rather drive on a racetrack than.
I can't argue with you on that one.
People think they're.
I'm saying, in terms of her mentality. When she's doing that, she's thinking, I'm a good enough driver. Really, she's probably not thinking about that at all. She's just thinking, I'm getting to my job.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a particular reason for her speeder, but it's more, like I said, so they could have that scene with the police officer. It's just that I think this is like, I just think it's a bit of an issue that if people like, it's, you remember how they did on Doctor Who where they talked about reproducible violence when they had, remember, Terror of the Autons, and it was about
I'm
toys.
going to cut you off right there, Ben. Sorry to interrupt you, but I highly doubt that anyone is watching Homicide and thinking, I wasn't going to speed in my car, but the chief medical examiner does it, so I think I'm going to do it from now on, because now I think it's safe.
Well, no. What I'm talking about is...
If that's what you're trying to imply. I think that's a little...
But then we also... this has no effect on people. Now let's go to some adverts. But what I'm saying, if you're creating an atmosphere of recklessness, of like showing all this SPS behavior on television, it's like, say, a bad example.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's not even close to the worst example of people on television. So we could, you could do a whole dissertation on that. People have done it.
Yeah,
so
no, but it's
kind of
one of
odd.
But like, I mean, I would do it. I mean, I would get a little bit hardcore where if you show a character who's speed, I'll have them crash and have a terrible accident, just to like show it.
Sometimes they do, but not every time.
Not to do.
Obviously, and in this story wasn't about that. So to introduce. So how do you feel it did the character bit?
That's why I'm not. Like I said, so getting over that bit, getting over that first scene, and I know why they did it, so they could have the dialogue with the cop and give her a strong introduction. I would say I would give the rest of the episode, say, an 8. And part of that is because I like her as a thespian. She was very good in Battlestar Galactica, and she was only in that for a few episodes, playing Admiral Kane. And so you can tell that she has this quality of being able to have this combination of vulnerability and assertiveness. And maybe, do you think maybe she's an ENTJ? Okay. Right then. Yes. So.
I would first impression is that in just this one episode, they were demonstrating Cox exhibiting audacity and adaptability. that before.
Yeah, from me. Always quoting it from Kersey. And usually I sometimes would do it as like how Ted Cruz would do it. Honesty, audacity, adaptability. Like going through his bullet points.
And I didn't see much the stuff.
Yeah, sorry, your sound cut out.
Oh, okay. Well, I said I didn't see much of the three things are for the rational. I forgot strategy or whatever the whatever stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
logic. I mean, you could say that she usually in her job there's some logical, but stressed in the episode. They stressed her decision making, her boldness, her kind of having a roller coaster type existence.
Yeah, you see what? Yeah, what can confuse the issue? What can confuse the issue for me is that both ESTPs and I'm not saying she's an ESTP, but both the ESTPs and ENTJs can be an Enneagram Type 8, and any Enneagram Type 8s are a little bit more impulsive and assertive and stuff. But I don't know yet how structured she is in her. But then you don't know whether that's a preference or an ability. So I would say so far an extrovert.
One video that I sort of understand why type TJs, there are they have in common. And I mentioned as far as homicide characters that Luther Mahoney you could see possibly being what you feel like.
Yeah, possibly ENTJ.
But I didn't have much that very hard. I have the benefit of seeing her future episodes already as well. So
yeah.
I have more examples of her not being very forward thinking.
Right.
In terms of her behavior.
And of course, some of that, Jeff, is writers like that. They like more impulsive characters because it's more dramatic.
Well, sure. I think though that good writers as you can have term and you over the course of a story very well too. Immediate impact. Well, that's why artisans get the headlines, get the attention, because the ones making the quicker impact on things. Also,
it might be because most actors and actresses are SPs that some of that bleeds across.
Right. But, then to play some version of themselves.
Yeah. Because she's quite similar to this when she plays Admiral Kane, and Admiral Kane was Lloyd Bridges played Kane in the original Battlestar Galactica, and that Kane was like, and he was like doing an impression of George Patton. Patton was an ESTP, but getting back on track, it's just that she's that similar. In it, sort of like an in-charge personality type. So I'll just say this to you, Jeff. And playing on that video that you did, do you think she's an extrovert?
I would say from this episode, it's hard to tell that yet. certainly capable of and kind of trying to, especially in a job where she's the new chief and she's really trying to establish her speaking. I would say that you can't really from one episode. I would say there are indications that will answer firmly, but from the first episode, which I'm sticking to here, I would say apparent yet.
Right. Okay. I thought that having seen this episode,
even say that thinking feeling can be determined really by this episode.
Oh no, it's balanced out in this episode.
See strongly is
yeah, you saw the principles there, so I wouldn't even make a determination on the thinking feeling based on this.
Right. And on the other another artisan character, it's his stuff in this episode when it's the fight in the bar by throwing the beer on active.
It's almost we sort of needed the information. Kellerman was written better in the second episode than in this episode because I think it was a little because there was more nuances in terms of like the issues going on, whereas in this it was a bit more. I just thought it was a little bit more depth. I just thought it was a little bit less. It was all to it. So I just thought it was written a little bit better in the second episode, and we had that extra information about why he did that in the guy's face. That we found out that these other people were on the take in the arson unit. What else to say about this episode? Yeah, because your sound was cutting out a little bit, and I don't know whether it was my fault because I'm on this older computer at the moment.
Well, of course, it's your fault, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's my fault for doing the interruption. Something interesting happened towards the end. Just a little detail. I'll just go back to the scene. In the FBI guy who was interviewing in the homicide department, he interviews them from behind a desk, but when Giardello comes in, he brings his chair around to around the foot. Why do you think that was? Why do you think he did that? Was it a sign of respect, or?
Maybe. I think maybe he was trying to, he felt like, well, if I appeal to him kind of in a different way, because he knows he's not going to intimidate him. I think he's good enough at sizing people up. He's like, there's no way that this guy is afraid of me, so I'm going to try to more appeal to him like we're colleagues.
Yeah.
Because that's what I had a feeling that you would write down or mention the line, because when he says, may I call you Al? And G says, no, you may not.
Yeah, part of that is just like little things like that. Like, he's such a good actor. I do so many screen grabs of him. And like I said, Live and Let Die, Jeff, we could review that film because he's in it, giving a very good performance. And we might get some extra views for that, seeing as it's a more popular thing, a James Bond film. Right. Yeah. This is, and this, as you say, they're married in real life, which is probably why he got away with this.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I think that it's an extra touch put in because they're. I think, this is my guess. I don't have any behind the scenes info or anything like that, but my guess, just as an observer to this and as somebody thinking about staging a scene, is that's in there. It could have been an ad lib by Brower just in the scene, but it also could have been something that was in there because the idea was that the stroke has made it so that he's lost some of his sensing ability.
Right.
He's kind of trying to get back these things that he lost. And so the experience, like in terms of just, in terms of the way, he experiences, even just touching his wife, it's like some of it he's experiencing for the first time in a while, because he hasn't been able to do these things that were normal to him. And so that's kind of how I interpreted that.
Do all the Homicide episodes have a commentary, or only just a few? Because
no, on the DVD, just a few.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Has anyone?
I would love if there was more commentaries, but there's not very many. But there's the ones that are there are good, other than the fact that they spoil future episodes.
Right.
Because they're very free with the stuff they say haven't happened yet. So it's definitely not good for someone who hasn't seen the whole show to listen to the commentary yet.
Yeah. Okay. And of course, you would know if anybody was recording like extra commentaries. Now, I think for every episode of Battlestar Galactica, there's a commentary. Just sort of put that in there.
Yeah, I got spoiled by the Simpsons DVDs because they all have commentaries.
Oh wow! And also, there's a lot of seasons of Simpsons, so that is being spoiled. Right. You lucky so and so.
So when I watched, that was really the first DVDs that I got were Simpsons DVDs, and so and then of course I started getting Doctor Who ones, which also almost all have commentaries. I think I like the new versions of it. A few of the original ones they put out that might not have or something, but for the most part, I think they all do. And so when I started I couldn't believe some of the other TV shows that didn't have the commentaries. It was sort of like, oh, they don't all have that. That's weird. Okay.
Because
it's not like they would be difficult to do. I mean, obviously there is a little bit involved in getting people back to talk about it, but it didn't seem like to me to be I guess just the expense of it. They feel like, they're trying to cut costs as much as possible, so they just don't have that as often. But
the more extras you put on a DVD, the more likely people are to buy the DVD rather than just download the torrent.
Yeah, I think overall that's probably true.
Right. And if you do a good film, if somebody watches the torrent, then they'll go watch it at the cinema, which is what I'll do with Rogue One. Right. I'm going to watch it and then buy the Blu-ray as well. Something else. Yeah, very good acting from Michelle Forbes. And as I said before, the acting standard in this program is very good. I mean, it's only every now and then when you get someone who's a little bit dodgy. I think maybe Lewis's wife started off okay, but then like towards the end, she got a bit non-brilliant. Not terrible, but non-brilliant.
Yeah, for such a small part in terms of somebody who doesn't have very many lines, I felt like maybe the focus should be, if this is what she's going to do, you need somebody who's a little more convincing in terms of how she gets upset.
Yes, that was the problem towards the end.
But, I mean, it's explainable to say that she's just one of those kind of people that doesn't have, like, really, demonstrative reactions to things. She can be really upset but still be kind of low-key seeming about it, because, there are real people like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not too much of a negative, because it's not like you got to sit through that kind of acting all the while. Now, what I did like about this is, me, I love character details, and I loved all the stuff from Lewis about his history and these little life these SI details that I like, where he was talking about his history.
And I was going to say that, not even just the history, but in terms of his personality now. That's really what this scene is a showcase for Lewis, and that regardless of the acting of the wife or whatever, what it comes out to me is it's totally believable that he would have sort of jumped into this relationship, and seen the positives of it, not really seen the negatives coming, and then he really is sort of blindsided by them. but he's still trying to make the most of it because he feels like, well, he's trying to keep the relationship going, but he doesn't want to be bothered by these things. He wants to just have a good time and relax and enjoy life. So it just kind of shows Lewis's personality in that he doesn't understand why she's making such a big deal about all these things.
Oh yeah, and I actually think that the things that they had him list, the writers had him list for like the little items that she made him get rid of, were actually very believable. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like cliches or anything. It was like very things that I could just believable. Actually, that's quite good stuff. But so like when he said like his collection of Playboy placemats and the other little things and
yeah, and she establishes herself.
I can see why he wants a divorce.
Either as a guardian or possibly like a very J idealist in terms of her brief, because it's like she has this image of these are the comments she makes about that was your bachelor pad. It's like she very compartmentalizes like how that was supposed to be, but this is how our house as a married couple is supposed to be, and you're violating that. So she has this principle that she's expecting him to follow, where he's like, I got rid of all these other things, but this is the most important thing. Why can't you let me have this?
And especially like for the diplomatic mentors, the NFJs, and their focus on changing people. And a lot of women, like if they're not an SP themselves, if they're like as you said, if they're an SJ or like an NFJ, and then marry an SP man, they think they can change them and improve them, in quotation marks. And you're always saying that, those other temperaments, especially SJs, always think they can go changing SPs.
Yeah, and it's not even just the changing as it is, or them thinking they can change someone. It's them just thinking the other person will change themselves. Like, aren't they supposed to know they're supposed to change this and this and this? Because the circumstances have changed. Like, now you're married, so you're supposed to do X, Y, Z. Whereas an artisan getting married is like not thinking, oh, well, my entire life is supposed to change based on that. There's a different conditions, but it's not like, oh, I change into married version of myself.
Right. But I would say that, Jeff, you are in a very good position to know the difference between things about an SP that can't be changed and also changes brought about by maturity. Because you know about Kersey temperament theory, you're of an age where you know about changes in maturity, and you're an SP yourself. So you know about what can and can't be changed.
Yeah, and obviously, like, adaptability is one of our, strong suits. And so usually with SPs, and I think especially SFPs, because we're like more likely to try to be accommodating to people and not seek, not kind of, kind of try to avoid conflict whenever possible.
Yep.
So the idea is, Lewis is kind of looking at like, I compromised all these other things. I was adaptable. I did change these things for you, and you don't appreciate it.
Yes.
You're still giving me grief over this one thing.
And Kersey, towards the end, he finally would call his type, like, say, tactical accommodator. Is like his interaction style. Yeah. So.
Because, all things being equal, Lewis would rather get along with everybody. He doesn't, like, seek out conflict. He wants people to be happy and just, enjoy life. And, he's just kind of trying to do his thing. And then, she's the one, in his mind anyway, that's making everything stressful.
Mm. And that's something we can talk about more in future. We can talk about, like, the interaction style, as Linda Behrens calls it. Because I'm going to be in a hangout with her. No, not a hangout, a webinar. So sort of like get in there, try and network with her. A free webinar, Jeff, on the 20th, and I would like you to be there as well. Right. Because it's free. 100 spots available. I don't know what else to say about this. it's almost like they, and I like the way they did it, but they sort of like did. I'm not saying they went overboard in terms of like showing different sides to Michelle Forbes' character, but they definitely put a lot of different sides in there, where they had her be assertive. It's almost like too much. It's almost like first of all they have her being like very assertive and a little bit SP in the first scene. Then they have her being like ethical, like with like firing that guy. Although multiple reasons, maybe as like Chris Boucher would do, it's like, well, she might be firing him for like multiple reasons, but it's also established because she was upset at the guy when he said she's just a hooker.
Yeah.
And so there's the sort of like the ethical point of view there, the sort of like the gut feeling FI thing. And then also the thing of, I can't have people who are dodgy people under my command. That could look bad on me if there's an investigation. So,
and like I said, it's, you know, it's part of the assertiveness. Also, like, you know, in the scenes where she displayed more of the ethical side, honestly, it sort of felt like she was very similar to Pimbleton in terms of how he expresses that.
Yeah. And also with her father in that scene. So a lot of times it's, though, I mean, a character might be written as you got this with Katie Sackhoff. Katie Sackhoff's character was written as an ESTP Starbuck, but she was such a good actress that she could show all this vulnerability. Like, we'll give him a little bit more of an SF quality to her by the ability to go.
Like I said, it's hard for me to, you know, kind of set aside future episodes that I've seen her in,
right,
and just base it on this one. But I would say that, you know, I almost lean in the direction of ESFP for her. But I don't know how much of that is future episodes bleeding into my thought pattern. But it's, you know, it's hard for me to set that aside entirely. But that's sort of my instinct. But I also think it's possible that there could be a little bias that's like, you know, females tends to sort of lean to the F side versus T. It's hard to tell, but like you said, the feeling that she demonstrates seems to be, I think the quote phrase is ethics of emotion. Is that what you?
Yes, for FE.
FE. Okay. What's the other one?
Oh, ethics of relations for FI.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so I got it wrong, but what I was trying to say is...
Although Dario would say, like, staying true to yourself kind of FI, because they also go with that definition.
What I was trying to say is it's like a personal expression, is whereas her feeling side that's demonstrated in this episode really about feeling of her environment or the people around her. It's entirely
it's more FI. Yeah. And in fact, you could almost see that she's not really valuing FE at all, because, like, you know, she's like direct, and so I would say that she values FI. It's not an FE.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got, you know, from those scenes. So as far as how, you know, from a standpoint of production or direction or writing, I don't remember, you know, how I felt this first time I saw these to really remember my first impression at the time. But I remember when I saw it again, when I was watching the show through with Morgan, I remember thinking, you know, who is my immediate gut feeling is, who's this chick to be like featured out of nowhere, and you know, she drives right into the opening credits of the show, and it's kind of like, you know, my initial impression is like, you're going to focus all this time on the medical examiner, you know. So I kind of agree with Morris on that. But that having been said, it was made to do that and feature her in this. It's well done. So it's well done for what it is. And I didn't feel like any of the scenes in this were gratuitous that way. Now, the following episode, which we'll get to, I do think there is a scene that is unnecessary to the story with her that doesn't really add anything to the show. But in this one, I didn't think that was the case. I thought every scene she's in really does flow with the rest of it. So And the thing I would praise about this episode is that despite how much screen time the new female character gets, we also had more time for Howard than we've had in several episodes, because she actually got a very good scene. She probably has the best scene with the FBI guy.
Yep.
Both of them have really good scenes with him. And so it was cool that she was the first one, because we sort of established his character in relation to that, but we also saw her being sort of different sides to her personality in that. So I thought that was good.
I think when he said that she had nice hair, maybe you could have had her come out and say under her breath, because she has done this before where she says things under her breath. Maybe I need to get a new look.
Yeah.
Because Brody said something about her hair as well in the next episode with red hair.
2 in a row where they're talking about her
she
hair.
could have said under her breath, "That's 2 guys in 2 days." Mention my hair.
Time, because if you remember way back in the funeral, one of the says something about her hair, and the guy and the wife gets upset at him for paying attention to her hair at a funeral.
Studies have been done. Well, there was a program on it. Basically, red hair does not alter the attractiveness of a woman, but it is a detriment to men having red hair. And I remember there was a program. Well, there was a program on the BBC called F-Off, I'm Ginger, and it was about how men with red hair are viewed as less attractive than if they changed their hair color. But one thing I would like to say about this actress, and because I've heard the Battlestar Galactica commentaries and the way they've talked about this actress, one of the reasons I think she's written like this, and she was pretty much like this as well in Battlestar Galactica, she's very good at those 2 things. She's very good at being assertive and powerful, and also very good at being vulnerable. So if we say those 2 things are like extroverted sensing, she's very good at that and believable and convincing, but also good at like the FI stuff, then the writers are sort of like, oh, she's good at that, we'll write more of that for her. Because there is because when I hear writers talk on the Battlestar Galactica, they're always saying, oh, right, she's good at that, we'll want to do more of that for her, that sort of thing. And plus, that's the sort of thing SPs want anyway. It's like she's an ESFP in real life, she'll want more of that stuff.
Yeah. Which obviously there's lots of ESFP actors, so it wouldn't be surprising. And I'm just sort of going through in my head the characters to think if there's anything I was going to say about them. And the one thing I would say is Bayless, he has the scene in the morgue where he's kind of starts off like he's kind of trying to hit on her, like he already sort of has been, kind of trying to be charming with her up to that point. But then the instant that he finds out that her father died, he completely changes into his protector mode. And you notice that, like, in what they show after that, even to the point where he walks her to her car and everything. He's no longer in that, I'm trying to get in good with the attractive female. He's totally in the I'm taking care of her feelings.
Well, SFJ gentleman, Jeff.
Yeah.
And
well, once again, a consistency with the character in that you can see him change. It's no longer appropriate for me to be flirting at all with her because appropriate in this situation.
Yeah, but it's also not like an external reference point. I think they actually feel that internally as well, the appropriateness. It's not like they're going off it's not like an ENTP or an ESTP going on what is the appropriate behavior in this situation.
Well, yeah, it happens very naturally. He changes instantly, and he's no longer looking at her as someone he's pursuing in any way. He's his that brief moment.
Well, I mean, from full disclosure for the audience, I'm an NTP, so I'm well disposed towards SFJs. I see them as very caring, and as ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the reason I mention that is because is that it does contrast with an artisan character in the same situation, compassionate in that situation, but they
if an SFB.
Yeah, but we are still opportunistic, so there could still be a part that would be like, oh, and you know, she's grieving. This is sort of a good time to get on her good side, you know, and it's not even necessarily a conscious thing like, oh, how can I, you know, how can I really get in good with her now that she's grieving? It's not seen as like, oh, good, this is a angled pursuit. It's just a natural thing to continue that. Whereas with Bayless, you can see that it's like that completely goes out of his mind at that point. He's not at all thinking of her that way anymore, because it's like he's shifted straight into protector mode, and he's not, you know, it's not even a thought in his mind anymore.
What I think is, maybe Bayless is one of the best, but maybe the best flirter in this program, in that he does it subtly. He doesn't come on too strong. I thought there was a very good flirting in this episode from Bayless.
Bayless should never flirt. He should be shot immediately on what I was going to say is I think that Lewis is effective that way, but he does come on strong, but he still doesn't come on strong in a way that usually puts people off. Like the only time you sort of saw it work against him was with Emma Zool, because she just didn't have that with him.
Yeah, Bayless is a lot more subtle and gentlemanly in his flirting than
well, sometimes
Lewis.
He can be lack of whatever the word I can't put the words together. He can be non-subtle sometimes too. Is what I'm trying to say. So it kind of depends. Say that he's less subtle than Bolander was, because he was very, you know, he didn't really know how to flirt at all, so he just sort of meandered around.
What someone's appearance and someone's confidence level will affect that a lot. Is how comfortable they are with flirting.
And obviously, you know, Bayless Bolander, and you know, he's been single. He's not somebody who's been married for 20 years and just got divorced, and so he's kind of, his attitude is like, I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to, you know, talking to women and the dating scene and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Bayless is, you know, it's a different time in his life, different situations. So
yeah. And as you said, even the actor now in his late 50s has a lot of female fans. Kyle Seacor.
Oh, sure. He's a handsome guy. I was just thinking yesterday, I was watching that episode. I was like, I was thinking of characters or sort of characters I could create that he would be good playing. I guess is the way, you know, that I could see him doing a good job portraying certain characters.
Oh, and I think there was just a little preview of the next episode, folks. There was a good moment when Kellerman impugned Bayless's character, and he got a little bit aggressive with Kellerman, and I like that. That was like an example of, you know, about the bribery, and it just suggested that, you know, that Bayless might take a bribe, and he got a very powerful reaction from that.
Yeah, Morgan said Bayless is stupid when he saw that scene.
You don't want to impugn an SJ's respectability.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing to Kellerman.
He said, yeah, that's exactly what he was doing to Kellerman because he's a jackass.
Yeah, but Kellerman's an SP, so they're more likely to be corrupt.
After he did the exact same thing, pretending it was great event.
Yeah, but he's under investigation though. Kellerman's under investigation.
So?
Bayless wasn't.
That doesn't matter. He acts like the action Kellerman took is a great offense, yet he just took that action. the other part.
Fair enough.
We can talk more about that when we do the next
Yeah, we
one.
can have a special guest star, Morgan Miller, in the next episode, giving the defense of Kellerman.
Defense? Man, get out of here.
Although you do think it's a bit of a scrub as well, I've heard that.
I've never heard him call Kellerman a scrub. He's just said that he did, stuff that how other people treated him.
Okay, fair enough. Identification there.
Scrubbish things. I don't remember. But
right.
Anyway.
Okay. I mischaracterized
All right.
the situation.
So I guess wrap this one up. Munch only had like a couple of lines. He said something about they haven't found anyone to fill J. Edgar Hoover's bra. And,
yeah, that's
and that he's never been interviewed by the feds, so he's liable to tell them that Kellerman kidnapped the Lindbergh baby. So Munch was the
well, that's an old reference. The Lindbergh baby was like the 30s or something.
For the historical references in this episode, which he likes to throw in.
Yeah. Was that Charles Lindbergh, the aviator?
Sounds right. Yeah.
Right, and then we got, is this Edward Herman? This guy,
yes.
the FBI guy?
Yes.
This is the Danvers or whatever it's called.
Yep.
That's Andre Braugher's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Robert Coulson? Is he?
Not sure.
We got Karen Williams is probably the chick that didn't act that well. Ralph Tabakin, who's that? Is he the?
That's Shiner.
Shiner, right? The dearly departed Shiner. I think he's deceased now.
Yeah, he died in like 2003 or 2002, somewhere in there.
And then we did so yeah, we've pretty much been through all of this. So that's it, folks. I will give it, after the first scene, I'll give it an 8 because of Michelle Forbes. But in total, I'll knock a point off for irresponsible driver.
I waffled back and forth, but I will go ahead and give it an 8 as well, because there are. I would score it even higher if it weren't for I disagree with certain story choices that they were still making at that point, and the choice of doing a whole episode basically focused on a new character. But like I said, once that choice was made, how they present it is very well done. So that's why I still give the episode an 8, because everyone involved is still giving their all, and it tells a good story, and it's entertaining and held my attention, all that. So 8 for me as well.
And also with that first scene, it's like she wasn't just speeding; it was like a little bit like elaborate stunt driver. The stunt driver may have gone a little bit overboard, like the weaving in between traffic at like high speed.
Yeah.
Maybe
she says later in the episode, that she drives too fast. So
yeah, I know, but they could have done the speeding, and then there's like being stunt driver weaving in between cars.
Are you saying you don't see that on a regular basis?
No, not unless.
See, I do.
A cop.
I see people driving like that all the time where I live. So and highways especially. So I see.
Texas,
the funny part is when I really laugh is when I see somebody doing that. I'll see like some dude in a Corvette, and he's doing that weave back and forth, try to get all these little spots, and then he'll end up getting stuck behind some 18-wheeler, and then I end up passing him. And I'm like, ha. I was just driving normally, and I passed you anyway, and you were all like, I got to get into all these little things, and now you're behind me.
Right.
So, yeah, there's some satisfaction in that for me.
We pretty much covered every aspect of that episode. We got some typology in there, so that's a pretty good review.
All right, so join us next time for White Lies.
Bye-bye, folks.
Bye.